Namaskar, my name is Suresh Vyas. I am a Sarod player of Senior Mayer Gharana. I am here to talk about the history, evolution and techniques of Sarod playing. Before we go into those details, I would like to begin by introducing the Sarod to you. This will help you appreciate the changes that have taken place along the whole history of the instrument. Let me begin with introducing the Sarod to you. The Sarod, as you see today, is made up of one piece of wood. You can see this is entirely one piece of wood. On top of the wood is placed the metal plate, which is made of mild steel. A lot of people put tin coating or a chromium coating on this. I have not done it, so it's a little dull. Below the steel plate is this parchment, which is made of a baby goat skin. It's very thin. After placing this, you place the bridges. There are 3 bridges on the Sarod, 1, 2 and 3. After the bridge is placed, you start fixing the strings. The strings are held by this piece over here made of brass. It is called the langot, which has these hooks on which it is placed. Now the way the strings are fixed, you can see there is crisscross strings going. This helps in holding the bridge in place. The bridge is not stuck like in the sitar or the tanpura. It is loose, so it has to be pressed down by the strings, and for that the tension has to be in such a way that it stays in the center. Now there are totally 25 strings on the Sarod, of which there are 15 called tarafs or sympathetic strings. They are not played. They are tuned according to the rag that is going to be played, and they will resonate on their own when a particular note is played. Besides that, there are totally 8 strings over here, of which 4 strings are the strings that we actually play the melody on, which are Ma, Sa, Pa and Sa. There are 3 strings tuned to Sa, 1 to the basic tonic and 2 to the octave. These are used for rhythm and to give drone. Now these 3 strings are tuned to the main notes of a rag, and they pass over this bridge, which is a flat bridge, unlike the other bridges which are sharp. This is not only flat, it has a slight curvature which gives it a Javari sound. That is why they are called Javari strings. Javari sound is a buzz sound that you get in tanpuras and sitar. So you just hear this here. So different from this sound, which is a much sharper sound. Now here is the tumba. This brass piece is called a tumba. It is hollow. It is connected to the air column inside. The whole instrument is hollow, and that hollow is connected with this hollow. So the sound comes out of the tumba and it stays in for a longer period of time. That adds to the sustenance and the volume of the instrument. Besides this, I will talk about the java. Now this java is made of a coconut shell. We shape it out of a coconut shell and polish it. And then we add this gauze with wax in it. This helps in gripping it. This is the effect of this java. Earlier different javas were used, but that changed later on, maybe in 1920s or 30s. That's about the instrument. We will now talk about the history of the Sarod. The Sarod, as you see and hear now, is a very recent instrument. It is not an instrument with any mythical or mystical past. It emerged as a distinctly identifiable instrument in the early 19th century, which is pretty recent compared to the history of Indian classical music. Besides, available literature on the subject is sparse, as well as it can be confusing and at times quite conflicting. Music being an oral tradition in India, even the history of music is transferred orally. This sometimes can lead to misrepresentation and misinformation. Also, sometimes the information is given to favor a particular gharana or a particular person. History on the basis of facts and research is very rarely recorded in Indian music. However, in the recent past, some scholars from all over the world have put together some facts on the basis of some documented records, some museum pieces, and some verbal communications with musicians with a long lineage. Some of the theories that emerged from this research are as follows. One theory about the origin of Sarod is mentioned in the book Historical Development of Music by Swami Pragyananand. He mentioned that the Sarod-like instrument was seen in the Champa caves in Madhya Pradesh between the 1st and 2nd century AD and in Amravati in the 2nd and 3rd century BC. A Sarod-like veena was also seen in Gandhara caves, making claims that the Sarod has descended from these instruments that are depicted in the illustrations. Hence, it is totally an indigenous instrument. The other theory, the second theory, was proposed by Raja S.M. Tagore in his book Yantra Kosh. He proposes that a Sarod-like veena was existed. It was called Shardiya veena and was played by the sage Sharda. And this Shardiya veena is the predecessor of the current Sarod. Lalmani Mishra opines in his book Bharatiya Sangeet Vadya that the Sarod is a combination of the ancient Chitra veena and the medieval Rabab and the modern Sursingar. In popular tradition, Rabab, or what is also called a Drupadiya Rabab or Senia Rabab, is very often traced to the great Mian Tansen of Akbar's court. Paintings of 17th century show Tansen and others of his time playing this type of rabab. Tansen's descendant through his son Bilas Khan is linked to the Senia Rabab. Senia Rabab belongs to Senia Rabab and the Been influence the technique of music of Sursingar, Sitar and Sarod. The Senia Rabab was nearly disappeared by the 19th century, although it was played by some artists like Muhammad Ali Khan of Gaya, who was the son of the famous Basat Khan, and Alauddin Khan Sahib, disciple of Rampur's Wazir Khan Sahib of Tansen lineage. In modern oral tradition, the Afghani or the Kabuli Rabab is considered to have transformed into the Sarod. The Kabuli Rabab was carried by traders and warriors from northwest of India, which is roughly the location of Afghanistan. This Rabab is used for entertainment and even as a means of motivating the warriors during war by singing songs of valor and bravery. Later, some musicians who stayed back in central and northern India started learning music from the existing masters of this music. Over a period of time, they realized that their rabab was not compatible for the music that they were learning. So they had to restructure the rabab, and it slowly transformed into the current sarod. Among these many conflicting and contested histories of the sarod, there is one that attributes its invention to Ghulam Ali Khan, who died in 1850. On record, Ghulam Ali is the earliest person associated with an instrument called sarod. It is likely that he made a few changes in the rabab, and that rabab, this new instrument that he has transformed, he called the sarod. It must be noted that the folk instrument Kabuli rabab is still a very popular instrument in Afghanistan, even Persia and even Kashmir. These theories may or may not enlighten us on the origin of the sarod, but one thing is very much established, that the sarod came into existence in the 19th century, in the early 19th century. Besides, you must always remember that Hindustani music is a live art form and it is continuously evolving and changing. And as the music evolves and changes, even the instruments have to undergo some changes to accommodate the new features of music. There is a lot of research going on the sarod even today. With Indian music having traveled all over the world, globally there is a lot of research to improve the sound and the design of the sarod. In this section, we will talk about the modifications made to sarod by different masters over a period of time. Hard evidence of stages of evolution of the Sarod is quite limited. Most of the evidence we have collected from drawings and descriptions of the Sarod by colonial administrators and museum pieces. Modification took place over a period of time along with the changes in the music and the milieu in which the music was performed. Recent research by scholars on the modification on the Sarod throws up the following facts. In 1864, a catalogue of musical instruments by Meadow tailors described the instrument Sarod. In 1889, the Sarod is exhibited in the Metropolitan Museum, New York. That Sarod did not have a metallic plate. Later, Niyamatullah Khan Sahib, who lived from 1816 to 1911, introduced the metal plate on the modern Sarod as it is recognized today. This indicates the influence of the Sursingar, which had a metal plate and metal strings, on the design of the Sarod. Abdullah Khan, who lived from 1843 to 1926, a very influential figure in the development of Sarod in West Bengal, experimented and brought about several changes to the design of the Sarod over a period of his long career, spanning from late 19th century to early 20th century. About 100 years after the birth of the first Sarod, in 1920s or 30s, there was a quantum leap in the capability and particularly the sound of the Sarod. This prominent and most influential change was made by changing the shape, the size, and the material of the instrument. This was done by Ustad Alauddin Khan Sahib and his brother, an instrument maker, Ustad Ayat Ali Khan Sahib. The changes that are made by Ustad Alauddin Khan Sahib are documented. The changes he made in the wood are as follows. The earlier Sarods were made of either teak wood or walnut wood. There are still some Sarods which use teak wood. The timbre of that wood was very different. It was good for the kind of music that was played at that time, which was influenced by the rabab, so it had a lot more bolkari, a lot of right hand work. So it did not need a lot of sustain. Alauddin Khan Sahib, who learned from the Drupad style in the Tansen school of music from Ustad Wazir Khan Sahib, wanted to perform or play that music, the Drupad music on the Sarod, which needed it to be closer to the human voice and a mellower sound for the alap to flow in a very fluid manner. So he changed the wood to a wood called Tun locally. It is called Indian Mahagini. It's a much softer wood, red in color and mainly available in the region of Assam. Alauddin Khan Sahib also changed the shape of the Sarod. The earlier Sarod had an oblong belly, which he changed to a round one. The diameter used to be about 7 to 8 inches. He changed it to 11 inches. This increased the sustenance of sound and the richness of sound. The Sarod, which is handcrafted out of a single piece of wood, the increase in the shape and size really enhanced the nuances of Indian music. The edge of the belly used to be very sharp earlier, so you could not play for a long time because the circulation would stop. So Alauddin Khan Sahib curved the edge of the belly. This not only made it easier to play but also enriched the sound of the Sarod. Alauddin Khan Sahib changed the number of strings on the Sarod from 17 to 25. This increased its capacity to play multiple rags, to play rags with complex scales. Even today, there are Sarods with less than 25 strings. He added 2 chikaris. Earlier Sarods had only 1 chikari. Even today, there are Sarods with 1 chikari. He increased the tarafs from 7 to 9. Earlier Sarods had 7 or 9 tarafs. Today, there are 15 strings. This made it possible to play rags with multiple notes, komal and tivra or komal or shuddh of the same note in the same rag. Also, it helps when you're playing music outside classical music where you have to change scales, so it becomes very easy. You don't have to keep tuning the tarafs all the time. The other change that Alauddin Khan Sahib made was to the bridges. Now, as you have already heard that there are 3 bridges on the Sarod, he added 4 strings which are the Jawari strings, which I have already spoken about. For that, he accommodated an extra small flat bridge that is not there in older sarods. Even currently, there are sarods who do not have that outside the Mayer Gharana. Because of 25 strings, he had to make one more layer of passage of strings on the bridge, and that was quite an engineering feat. With all these bridges and all these strings, the richness of the sound is absolutely amazing. He added the tumba, the brass tumba, which was not there in earlier sarods. This adds to the richness and also importantly to the sustenance of the sound. All these qualities were needed because he was trying to translate Drupad music, Drupad Gaiki of the Tansen school onto the sarod, which was not possible in the earlier instruments. Now we will come to the important playing instrument called the jawa. Earlier the jawa used to be made of metal. Just like the mizraf, it was similar to the mizraf, which was pressed and played by the sarod players, which was okay then because the strings were catgut strings. For that, having a metallic jawa was a good idea. But when the sarod transformed and you started putting metal strings, metal against metal was not a very good sound. So Alauddin Khan Sahib was working very hard to use different materials. He tried materials like ivory, he tried bone, he tried wood, and finally settled for a coconut shell. Today, every sarod player is using a coconut shell as a jawa. This information indicates that the transformation of the sarod is very fluid. It keeps changing as the music changes, and I'm sure it will continue to change forever. At present, there are 4 gharanas of sarod. Although the basic structure of the sarod is similar, there is a difference in the material and the technique of playing. The 4 gharanas are: number 1, Shah Jahanpur Gharana. It was founded by Inayat Ali Khan. Prominent musicians of this gharana are Abdullah Khan, Muhammad Amir Khan, Radhika Mohan Moitro, and Buddhadev Das Gupta. The second gharana is Lucknow Gharana, which was founded by Niyamatullah Khan Sahib. Prominent musicians of this gharana are Umar Khan, Ilyas Khan, and Irfan Khan. The third gharana of sarod is Gwalior Gharana or Bangash Gharana. It was founded by Ghulam Ali Khan. Prominent players are Ustad Hafiz Ali Khan and Amjad Ali Khan. The fourth gharana of sarod is Senia Mayer Gharana or just Mayer Gharana, founded by Ustad Alauddin Khan Sahib. Prominent maestros of this gharana are Ali Akbar Khan Sahib, Timir Baral, Bahadur Khan, Ashish Khan. Now we will talk about a very important aspect of Indian music called ornamentations. It is called Alankar or Alankara, which in Sanskrit means beautification. Now, as you know, music has 3 basic elements: melody, rhythm, and harmony. Indian music uses only melody and rhythm. Harmony is not used in Indian classical music. Melody is a sequence of notes or a succession of notes. When played by itself, it can be quite dry and unaesthetic. To add beauty, Western classical music uses harmony. Multiple instruments are played behind the basic melody to enhance the beauty of that melody. In Indian music, we use a different technique altogether. We add alankaras or ornamentations on notes. There is never a moment where Indian classical music will be singing a single note or a sequence of notes staccato. There's always some amount of ornamentation added to add beauty, to add the aesthetics. And these alankaras also decide the character of a rag very often. So the same alankara cannot be used randomly in a rag. There is a system, there is an order, there is a proper science behind it. Now we will I'll try to explain some of the alankaras that are used. The most common and the most known alankara is meen. Meen is gliding from one note to another. I will demonstrate a meen to you. So we can have an aroha meen or an avrohan meen. You can even have a complex mix of Arohan and Avrohan mean. I'll just demonstrate all these three. First, Arohan mean. This could be 2 notes, 3 notes, or many more notes. Avrohan mean. Now a combination. That's a mean. Now another ornamentation or alankara is called karn in vocal music. In instrumental music we generally call it krintan. Krintan is like a grace note where the first note is very subtle, played for a shorter period of time. The main note is played for a longer period of time. You can have krintans of 2 notes, 3 notes, or even 4 notes at times. So a simple krintan of 2 notes would be 3 notes. Another ornamentation or alankara is the jamjama, which is similar to the krintan. In this, you play more krintans in the same amount of time in quick succession. To give you an example, you can have even more than that. Then there's one more ornamentation called andolan. Andolan is when you oscillate around the note. Now there is a system about how you do it. You cannot randomly oscillate any note at any point. For example, Pancham and Sa should not have any andolan because they are achal notes. But the other notes also, sometimes the amount of andolan decides the rag that you are playing. So if you are playing Darwari Kannada, your Komal Kandhar andolan will be very different when you are playing a rag with the same scale like Kirwan. So I will just demonstrate a little andolan. This is tuned to Yaman, so I will do it in Yaman. Now lastly, I will talk about an andolan called gamak. Gamak is when you play mean between 2 notes in quick successions. Now there are 2 kinds of gamaks. The most common is the Arohan gamak, which is like this. But you could even have a Avrohan gamak. So although you are going in Arohan, but the gamak is Avrohan. So these are the main alankaras that I use. There are many more, but I am demonstrating the few most important ones. In conclusion, I would like to say that the ocean of Hindustani classical music is vast, and in my short presentation, I have tried to touch upon the basic elements of Sarod and the music that it emanates. The Sarod, as you see and hear today and experience today, is modified and refined with experimentations of the great masters. Extraordinary grace, infinite delicacy, and resounding depth in sound are among the exceptional features of this instrument that makes it such a popular instrument for Hindustani classical music. Its ability to play gamak, meen, krintan, and other nuances provides splendid possibilities for rendition of a rag. At present, the Sarod has evolved over centuries into the present shape, tone, and construct. And it is a fine instrument for the exposition of the fine nuances and the grandness of Hindustani classical music.